Shitashwa, welcome to the show. So before we get into your journey of Borderless, what do you guys do? I want to go a little deep into knowing you as an individual. So let's talk at the fork of the road. You don't come from a generational entrepreneurship, like you said, right?
Not at all, yeah.
So you're something who kind of broke the band and then decided to do things on your own. What made you think that this is the time where I should pivot, step out of my comfort zone?
Entrepreneurial ecosystem for young people to kind of come up with an idea and build on. But then I guess that was the tough part. I went back to family and I said, look, this is what it needs to be done. Aaj nahi kara to nahi kar payenge.
A lot of people fear leaving stability.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to these kind of, let's get to the time when you plunged into becoming an entrepreneur and started with your initial nascent days startup idea. And what was the next big idea that you had in this journey? What surprised you the most in a startup environment vis-a-vis when you were in a corporate world?
So 1 lakh crore rupiah normal Hindustaniyon ne, Indian individuals had sent abroad in 2019. Education alone, Indians spent $140 million in 2014 on global education. In 2019, this was $3.3 billion.
It is Borderless, this platform that you created that you're so proud of.
Right.
Can you give us an understanding of what your company does? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the Sunny Shah Show. Today we have a powerful entrepreneur in house, an individual who chose to leave the traditional corporate life and carved his path, the founder and CEO of Borderless, Shitashwa Srivastava. Shitashwa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sunny. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So before we get into your journey of Borderless, what do you guys do? I want to go a little deep into knowing you as an individual.
Sure.
Can we start by introducing yourself to our audience, who you are, where do you hail from, and the personal side of your life, please?
Right. In some ways, very, very classic. You know, I grew up in this town called Allahabad, which is now renamed to Prayagraj, back in the 80s and 90s. Studied engineering in Kanpur. For the first 17, 18 years of my life, I was in Allahabad. Went to Kanpur to do engineering. Went into software as a software engineer, basically, as most people would in that time, especially from UP. Then went into study MBA, and then went back into software, but this time on the management side, and then started up. My first company I started in 2009. So very briefly, basically grew up in Allahabad and ended up becoming an entrepreneur about 6 or 7 years after graduating from my first degree, so to say. It was a mid-sized town back in the day. Cycling to school in the summers, very early in the morning, in the winters through the fog. That kind of environment. Very UP, hardcore UP, Sangam, etc. References. The Mahakumbh happened, earlier this year. I call it that it went viral. Everybody went and so on. Things happened. Food, just early days life. Came from a very academic family. My father retired as a professor of engineering in REC Allahabad, the Regional Engineering College, which later on became National Institute of Technology. So very academic family. Was hardly any instance of entrepreneurship in the family. Came from a background where people used to call it business, and nobody was in business, right? Everybody was either an architect or an engineer or a doctor, so relatively straightforward lifestyle. So I think in a few generations, I may be the first person to actually, not have a job. Then post MBA, of course, worked for a while. Went through the classic rigmaroles of having debt, etc. As a student of management. Waited for a while to sort of pay it off before I could start something of my own, and ended up starting my first company, which was called Jade Magnet. And then so I've been an entrepreneur for what, 16 years, 17 years now. 2 companies, pivots included, I would say 3 to 4. Now Borderless, of course, is a cross-border financial infra platform for Indians and others who live in emerging markets like India. But when I started up, the first of the ideas that came to my sort of mind and something that I worked on was more on the creative side. So built a marketplace for services, especially creative services back in the late 2000s. So very briefly, that's the journey. I'm happy to answer more questions on
It's interesting. So let's talk at the fork of the road. You don't come from a generational entrepreneurship, like you said, right?
Not at all. Yeah.
So you're something who kind of broke the ban and then you decided to do things on your own. You had a stable corporate life, is what I understand from my earlier conversation with you.
Right.
What made you take a pause? It's almost like taking a risk, right? You have a set life, risk-free, set corporate life.
Mhm.
What made you think that this is the time where I should pivot, step out of my comfort zone, and start something of my own?
I think in some ways, when you start something, you're actually, before you started, there is a sense of discomfort. While, traditionally, practically, one would say कि ठीक है, salary आती है, and, you have your day-to-day life is set in a manner, but you're also at some level not very happy doing what you're doing. Right? So that discomfort kind of stays when you are when you have a few ideas, when there's something that you want to build. Of course, what you're trying to build does not exist in the world, so I think there is a bit of a feeling inside कि इसको बनाओगे नहीं तो कोई और नहीं बनाएगा तो ये होएगा ही नहीं. Right? And it comes out of curiosity as well. If you're curious, oh shit, if I was to make this startup or idea or whatever I'm trying to do project, if I were not to make this happen, then it just won't happen because nobody else is doing it. I think it came more from a sense of discomfort. Of course, the financial comfort, naturally was there. But I had a great support system. My parents, when I first quit my job, I wasn't married at that time. So it was mostly my parents, my family, who were not discomforted by the idea that, ठीक है, जो करना है आप कर सकते हो. Although they had spent a ton of money on education and twice over by then. But it happened in stages as well. So the first time I wanted to start something was after my engineering. But naturally engineering के बाद you get a job and it was ऐसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं ढर्रे में life चलती है. तो engineering करा, went into software. When I was in software, I realized that I wasn't very happy.
Okay.
Doing the day-to-day, things that I was required to do. So in those days, entrepreneurship or especially tech entrepreneurship was not really popular in India.
What times are we talking here?
So 2004, 5, 6. Right. There was VC ecosystem wasn't really there. There was no venture capital. Very, very early days for tech in general. And all tech was software services. जहाँ की मैं भी काम करता था, right? So this was obviously companies like Infosys and TCS and Cognizant, so on, which HCL, which had come up 20 years before that. But that was it. So there was no entrepreneurial ecosystem for young people to kind of come up with an idea and build on. There was only one incubator in those days in Nirma University called Nirma Labs. And they used to run an incubation program where they would invite you for a test of your mindset and whatever you wanted to build, a test of your ideas, and you had to stay there for 3-4 days to go through that test, and then if you got selected you would then be incubated over a period of 6 months. So I went through that. I went to Ahmedabad, stayed over in the Nirma campus and went through it, got selected. But at that time my parents were not very I would say comfortable with the idea. So everyone was like, look, and there were other cousins and elders who I would look up to and look at their advice. So the broad suggestion came कि this may not be the time to sort of become an entrepreneur. आपको मन नहीं लग रहा है तो आप MBA कर लो. Okay. Everybody seems to be doing that and so on. So I said, chalo, let's do that. That's how I kind of went into MBA in the first place. But the result of an MBA was that there was a loan. You had to take sort of a loan to go through the program and stuff, right? As most people end up doing. So as soon as the MBA ended, I was again looking to kind of start up. I had a different idea, some different energy at that time. But I was very conscious that loan pura karna hai pehle. Right? So I had to work for a couple of years to pay that off. That's how I ended up being in Cognizant. about a year and a half in Cognizant. And as it happens in IT services companies, you have to go, as they call it, on site.
Yeah.
Client location, basically. At that time, my client was a company in Los Angeles in the USA. So I was required to basically move to LA. And I thought that if I don't, stay back and do this now, then I'm never going to do it. You go to the US, then you build a life there, essentially. And it'll be LA, you will earn some more money, try to save money, send money back to India, essentially then go through the rigmaroles of a visa and then a green card and then citizenship. And that basically would have become life. So I went back to my employers and said, can I take a little bit more time to decide? But the requirements were such that they basically said, look, if you can't go to LA, you have to quit. And if you don't quit, then we'll have to just let you go. I mean, one way or the other, this is it. You decide now. So at that time, it was a decision which was slightly difficult because going to the US in those days would have meant even more financial security, even a very different kind of lifestyle from what one would imagine otherwise. But then I guess that was the tough part. I went back to family and I said, look, this is what it needs to be done. Aaj nahi kara to nahi kar payenge.
How did they react to it?
They were okay. They were like, yeah, we've done what we had to do by way of making sure you're educated and so on.
Because you understand, right? We're talking about early 2000 time frame, where everybody had an aspiration to eventually go abroad, set up their life, and get established, right? You were actually facing a lot of headwinds because you were thinking the other way around.
Yeah.
You wanted to stay back. You want to do things on your own.
Yeah.
So how did your friends and family react to it? It must be something very, very out of notion, right? At that stage.
Fortunately, friends were supportive. So I had one great friend who agreed to, to start up with me.
Nice.
So he credits or blames me still, of making him also quit his job and doing this. So we joke about it a lot. So we sort of as a group, we just at some level felt that if we don't, we started what became Jade Magnet. So Jade Magnet was a marketplace for services.
Okay.
So small and medium-sized businesses, they needed creative work. They would typically look for agencies, advertising agencies and marketing agencies and stuff, right? और ideas, किसी को logo बनवाना है, किसी को बाद में वेबसाइटें बनवानी है, या किसी को search engine optimization कराना है. Later on in life, social media became big. Now these things are very common. मतलब, everybody is into social media optimization and all of those kind of things. Mobile app development. Right? उस जमाने में उतना नहीं होता था. Right? And there were only some large companies and large interactive agencies which would do it, but the budgets of SMEs were not really, big enough to deal with large and established creative firms. So we said, can we make a marketplace? And there are obviously a lot of individuals and boutiques, not necessarily in Bombay or Bangalore, but even in places like Allahabad or Mysore or Jaipur and Ludhiana and so on, right? What if we could give them a platform to show their creativity? Prices are lower in tier 2, tier 3 India as well. And therefore that platform could be useful for small, mid-sized companies, startups, etc., to then use and get their work done. The feeling was same, that if it is not done now, then when? Yeah. And if we don't do it, then who? Right? So I think that itch was there, which worked with friends. Family was like, देखो loan खत्म हो गया है, तो अभी ठीक है, then you can freely do what you desire to do, and the support was massive. So I mean, in some sense, when I reflect, I also feel that I come from certain privileges. These are privileges.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether you are wealthy or not. Just mental comfort of security and financial security to a certain extent, but just mental security is very important when you're trying to take some sort of risks otherwise. So yeah.
One learning that I wanted to extract from this for our audience's sake, a lot of people fear leaving stability.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to these kind of thoughts?
Yeah. Honestly, it's a little bit insane to leave stability and quit and start something. It's if we look at it by practical barometers, नहीं करना चाहिए. to be very honest. और जरूरी नहीं है entrepreneur बनना भी. I think it's a journey which is a little bit it's a little bit like सांप सीढ़ी, right? आप कुछ करते हैं, it's not a game of chance unlike सांप सीढ़ी, but you're doing something, and much like snakes and ladders, you get a ladder and you get a boost, right? The ecosystem supports, there is some environmental change which helps you, and it just goes viral, or something happens which with less of your effort the world moves you forward. But आप कुछ और करते हैं तो फिर you find a snake as well. Again, those are unpredictable, pitholes, so to say, and then आप गिरते भी हैं. Ultimately, to end the game, it takes a while for the most part, right? And it's not therefore necessary to go through it. That's generally my advice also, that it's not ठीक है. If you have an idea, if you have an itch, if you are curious about something which is so fundamental that you need it to happen, right? Then you will have the energy to go through it. But if you are not sure, if you just want to become an entrepreneur feeling that there is some sort of glamour in it, or there are the high risk is also high reward, but the risk is very high, the reward takes a long time, and it may never happen. So my advice tends to be a little bit contrary, कि मत करो अगर नहीं एनर्जी के लिए, आइडिया नहीं है तो, राइट? जरूरी नहीं है करना. That being said, take your ecosystem with you. It's comfortable because of the pits and falls. It's comfortable only when you have enough of your family support, enough of your emotional ecosystem around you has to be super supportive. So if you feel that you're doing it out of rebellion, it becomes even more difficult. I think maybe 30-40 years ago, the world was in a place where, especially from India, entrepreneurship was not as common. So rebellion was required and family support was less. But somebody who's looking at this now, and we are talking in 2025, right? And hopefully people will see this video even 10 years, 20 years later, right? Families are more supportive. There is more financial security overall, right? So it's easier, I would say, if you take everyone along, inform them, take their opinions, validate your ideas with friends and people, and validate your ideas with potential customers, whatever you're trying to do. And then when you do it, then it's they will like it. They will feel that they've been a part of your success, which means that you will fail now and then. They will happily be a part of it as well. So it just journey will become a little bit easier.
Interesting. तो सितांशु, आपकी लाइफ को थोड़ा फास्ट फॉरवर्ड करते हैं.
हाँ.
Let's get to the time when you plunged into becoming an entrepreneur and started with your initial nascent days startup ideas.
Right.
You spoke about Jade Magnet. What happened to that?
Ran it for 2009 to 2014, 15. There came a time in 2013, 2014 when our largest customer, which was one of the largest, I would say, footwear brands in the world at that time, they had been using the platform for a good 3-4 years, and they were responsible for more than half the revenue that we were making. They decided to go to a traditional agency, which was by global mandate. They had one global agency for all their businesses. They're a UK brand, so out of the UK, in US, India, everywhere, they had a single agency. But when they had come to India, it was a very small business for that agency.
Sure.
So they ended up using the platform, right? And they needed delivery and activation and creative work across the country, because कभी गुवाहाटी में दुकान खुल रही है, कभी Chennai में they're launching a store. At the same time, they're doing some search engine optimization and running a digital campaign because some activities going on in a few stores in Delhi and Bangalore. So it was very pan-India by presence. So they needed a company, a platform which could help them with creative work and activation across the country as well. Mm-hmm. So they ended up using the platform because we had service providers in all these places, and we were able to kind of orchestrate and make it happen for them. 3-4 years down the line, by 2014, they had become big. The business had become big enough for a large global agency to come and take it. So that's what happened. They said कि देखो ये होएगा. There's no way you can stop it. Maybe we'll get you paid in royalties for some time, right? So why don't you sell this or let it go, and you get to service this for a while. So we kind of took that model. My co-founder at that time, Anik, and I decided that let's just basically let it happen. Honestly speaking, Jade Magnet जब हमने शुरू करा था तो the feeling was that this could become like a Flipkart or Amazon of services. There will be millions of businesses on one side and hundreds of millions of service providers on the other side. But unfortunately, the areas that we picked as a service, and that was a learning. Creative services are not binary outcome oriented.
Right.
You may like something, I may like something, somebody else may not like the same output. Everybody's creative mindset is different.
Right.
And when the outcome is non-binary, you don't get paid. You get paid for binary outcomes. कि किसी ने बनवाया लोगो, उसको अच्छा लगा, तो बोलेगा ठीक है सर, this is my fee. But आपने platform पे रखा 20, 30, 100 people did some design work, and you may feel that some of them are nice enough, but the client who actually put it there as a requirement, he or she may not really find anything appealing enough, right? So he would have paid some 20%, 30% of the money and then said कि नहीं चाहिए मेरे को. So that's not scalable because every output is subjective to somebody's tastes and choices and so on. So, and marketplaces, this was a marketplace business, much like say Urban Clap became a marketplace for services later on, but they have a very binary outcome service. AC ठीक कराना है, ठीक हो गया कि नहीं हो गया, this is like, there is 99% पता है आपको कि ठीक हो गया, right? Haircut कराना है, हो गया कि नहीं हो गया, पता है आपको. So these are binary services. हमारे case में, because it wasn't as scalable, we kind of begun to feel that raising money beyond the initial, $50,000-$100,000 for it would be difficult. It was not going to become venture scale. And VCs, this is again 2011, 12, 13 timeframe. VC ecosystem was still very new in India at that time. 4 or 5 funds. But they had not seen any global examples of similar businesses succeeding. So very practically, we kind of felt that it's not going to scale the way we desire, and it's not going to raise money the way marketplace needs money. So when we got an opportunity to kind of, hive off pieces of it, get paid in royalties over a period of time, we took it.
You decided to move on.
So that you move on to the next thing. And it had been 5 years as well. So you kind of felt कि अभी हो गया.
And what was the next big idea that you had in this journey?
So पहले तो 2 साल का break आया because for about a year and a half, I was not compelled to find a job. There was money.
Sure.
So it was that ways again comforting. And by then I was married. I had we had a child. Things were very different in personal life. So the situation in life, also was different. But again, great support from family, from my wife and my in-laws, and in addition to what my parents were already supporting for. Took time to start something else. Figured that it is the next time you do it, you want it to become very big. Right? And I had been an entrepreneur for a good 5 years by then. So I was like, let's take our time to start something. And for a long time, like I said initially, कोई compelling idea ही नहीं था कि जिसके साथ आप अपनी energy attach कर सको. तो धीरे-धीरे, I think over a period of 2 years, started seeing the world a little bit differently. Towards the end of Jade Magnet, one of the things that we would analyze social media trends for brands.
So moving on, Sitashwa, what was the next big idea?
So towards the end of Jade Magnet, a lot of work that we were doing was in measuring social media sentiment for brands. Ki Twitter pe, what is somebody saying about your brand and how does that compare with, say, your competitor's brand? Right? That was becoming a big thing in 2013-14 timeframe. So we were among the earlier sort of companies in India to develop just software which could automatically do this. By 2015-16, when I was starting to think of my next ideas, I had a friend who had been in the hedge fund space. So we kind of reflected ki if this can be done for brands, why can't we use analysis of this unstructured conversational data to predict prices of stocks? Or can we not? Like that was the question that I asked myself. And that gave birth to what we called Stockle. It became a search engine where, so if you search on Google, you would get news and, if you're asking about a company, to uska revenue kitna hai, what's the stock price and stuff. But if you search on Stockle, you would get investing insights. Is this a good time to basically invest in this company or not, based on not just fundamental data like revenue and profitability and so on, but also based on what analysts are saying and उसका sentiment क्या है. What people in the market are saying are उसका sentiment क्या है. Are a lot of people talking about the company or the stock, which means कि could there be some sort of price momentum,
Yeah.
those kind of things. So we would essentially take all this data from social platforms and news and analyst platforms, and then we built algorithms. At that time, in fact, my father was working in an IT Allahabad, so he was still a prof. He recommended a few PhD students who I hired essentially to help with this, and this became a project for them, while it became a business outcome kind of discovery area for us. So I spent almost a year just doing this in between Jade Magnet and Stockle, figuring out whether this can be done at all or not. At the end of the year, we figured कि कुछ तो हो सकता है. There is obviously, you wonder sometimes कि there is a flood in Nigeria and the price of, say, the Tesla stock falls, right? There was a great example back in the day where people were using satellites, funds were using satellites to watch Walmart parking lots.
Okay.
And based on the density of cars in Walmart parking lots, they were trying to predict Walmart sales. तो अदरवाइज देयर इज नो वे टू नो कि अगले क्वार्टर का क्या सेल्स होगा. वॉलमार्ट के एग्जीक्यूटिव्स ने जो प्रोजेक्शन दिया, आप उस पे चलते हो. अगर वो मीट हो जाता है तो स्टॉक बढ़ जाता है, अगर वो मीट नहीं होता है तो स्टॉक गिर जाता है. लार्जली दीज काइंड ऑफ इंडिकेटर्स. बट उस जमाने में अब ये हो रहा है कि आप उसके पार्किंग लॉट को आप एक आपने एक सूडो सिग्नल मान लिया कि अगर बहुत सारे लोग हैं तो जरूर सेल्स बढ़ेगी इस क्वार्टर की. एंड यू डू इट ऑन अ डे टू डे बेसिस. देन यू of course you measure it against, say, parking lot density of the last quarter and last year, and over a period of time this becomes very rich indicative data कि actually sales कैसी होने वाली है. And it worked for them. So I figured कि ये method तो चलो, this is a very specific example, but what if it could be used in a more democratized manner for a large number of brands and companies? And then why not give access to this kind of intelligence to people? Because it takes money. Large funds, proprietary investors and traders and hedge funds have money, and they use that money to, as they say, generate alpha. कि हम कुछ extra knowledge हमें होनी चाहिए हमारे पास, right? But coming from a crowdsourcing background of Jade Magnet, my sort of vision at that time was कि ये सबको पता होना चाहिए. Create that balance in the market, so to say. Right? So can we do this analysis of whatever is relevant, be it news, be it satellite data, whatever alternate data is available? Can we create algorithms to measure that and then give the intelligence to people, retail investors? So that became, Stockle essentially in the first avatar.
Very interesting. How did you bridge the skill gap between corporate and tech?
So I think fortunately I did not spend too much time in corporate. I spent about a year and a half in my first job, and again a year and a half, 2 years in my first job and a year and a half in my second job. So I only did about less than 4 years of corporate life. So my hangover was not as much as somebody who would have maybe worked for 10 years or 20 years. Which means I did not really have much skills in terms of corporate skills or startup skills for that matter. That being said, being in an entrepreneurial position, being in the startup ecosystem requires a certain degree of mind shift, because A, you are at risk all the time. B, your mental fortitude is very important because of the ups and downs of the journey. The skill is more mental and less knowledge. Knowledge happens with experience. Knowledge happens with, as you meet more and more people. The largest skill gap I had to sort of cover for was that I'm generally, I keep to myself. I'm not very social. I don't enjoy myself, or I wouldn't enjoy myself in events and get-togethers and parties. I'm the silent one most of the time, right? But being in this ecosystem, you are kind of networking also now and then, and you're selling. The other large skill gap was that I never sold anything. In the software space or in the consulting world, you're not really selling anything. I mean, at least that was not my role. Consulting, आपके पास काम आता है, आप काम करते हैं, आप analyze करते हैं, आप result दे देते हैं. But इस case में you are selling all the time. And we've been having offline, BD discussions, etc. So I think that again with experience, but that mental shift कि हाँ ये करना ही है, right? And नहीं करोगे तो नहीं होगा. I think that became the way of bridging that gap.
Interesting. Any surprising moments? What surprised you the most in a startup environment
Yeah.
vis-a-vis when you are in a corporate world?
I think success, because you don't see it all the time.
Yep.
Success can surprise you. Not just your success overall, but especially your own success at times, right? Little things make you feel कि ये हो गया यार, ये तो सोचा था कि हो जाएगा या नहीं होएगा, पता नहीं था, right? And it could be as simple as a happy user feedback कि आपने ये बनाया है, हमने इसको इस्तेमाल करा, हमें अच्छा लगा, right? It could be as complex as a large organization saying कि let's work together, or I'd like to make an investment, those kind of things. I'm constantly caught by surprise because failures are just so constant in the startup space, and you're always trying new things, so you're more than likely to fail most of the times, right? Because you're selling all the time, so be it somebody you're trying to hire, you're selling कि हाँ stability है, आपकी salary time पर आएगी, we have money for the next 5 years, 3 years, whatever. You're selling of course to investors कि this is a great space, good time, product is nice and so on, market is there. You're selling to family that नहीं सब ठीक चल रहा है, you tension mat lo, etc. Right? Health is fine, which are all important things, and people worry about those things, right? So, I think therefore you fail all the time as well. Sales is a constant, stream of failures and successes in between, right? So, because of that, I feel कि जब ये होता है, you get a little bit of that adrenaline rush, that dopamine, which is a constant surprise.
Let's talk about the birth of Borderless.
हाँ.
पहले तो for my audience to understand what is Borderless, this platform that you created that you're
Right.
so proud of.
Right.
Can you give us an understanding of what your company does?
Yeah. So Borderless is essentially a platform which helps people who live in countries like India, emerging markets, India, Southeast Asia, Africa, couple of Middle Eastern countries. People who live in these countries, they tend to spend a lot of money in dollars, in global expenses. Borderless is a platform which allows you or enables you to not just spend money overseas, but to actually save, invest, and then when you spend more efficiently. So make cross-border payments. We have three products in the platform. It's cross-border investing, cross-border savings, so multi-currency banking, and payments. Send money, let's say from India to US, UK, or send money back, to India or to Philippines, or whatever the destination recipient countries are. And it sort of is built on on my observation of just data. So some very interesting facts. Back in 2019, when we kind of started to think of कि Stockle से borderless में pivot की जब बात चल रही थी.
Sure.
So the reason why this happened was essentially because I came across the liberalized remittance scheme of RBI. So it's called LRS. And the total LRS volume, and LRS is what? LRS is basically Indian people sending money abroad.
Okay.
आप ट्रैवल करते हैं, एयरपोर्ट पे फॉरेक्स खरीदते हैं, LRS है. आप बच्चों की पढ़ाई के लिए पैसे यूनिवर्सिटी को भेजते हैं, LRS है. आप कुछ आप बाहर आपने कोई ज़मीन खरीदी या कोई आपने घर खरीदा या कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट करा, LRS है. आपने कोई ग्लोबल इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी खरीद रखी है, उसका प्रीमियम आप पे करते हैं, LRS है. So all of this comes under LRS. The total LRS volume of 2019 or thereabouts was about $13.5 billion, which struck me as a pretty interestingly high number, almost 1 lakh crore. The dollar was about 65, 66 rupees, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 lakh crore rupiah normal Hindustaniyon ne, Indian individuals had sent abroad in 2019. And there was no focus on it. Nobody was talking about it. There was no media coverage. RBI ने data publish करा था, तो at least that was there, right? But there were really not too many startups in that space, so to say. I figured कि if you're spending so much money in dollars, then you should be saving and investing also. right? Why do you want to let currency depreciation hit you in sort of a negative manner? Back in 2014, tracking back 2014, the same number used to be 1.5 billion. So from 1.5 billion, it had become 13.5 billion in about 4-5 years, which seemed like a massive jump.
Yeah.
And this was all individual Indians. This does not include any money sent by companies or family offices or trusts. This was individual people sending money out. Education alone, Indians spent $140 million in 2014 on global education. In 2019, this was $3.3 billion. So education alone as a use case had just seen this expansion. So I went back to some of our early investors and basically said, let's just build a platform. Let's pivot from what we are doing, a US-based, search engine or mobile app for stock tracking. Pivot to this space because this just seems to be growing much faster. And last year, now this 13.5 billion has become 30 billion plus.
Wow.
So it has essentially gone from 1.5 billion to 30 billion plus in about 10 years or so, right? So naturally that space has just expanded. At the same time, sending money back to India or investing from overseas into the Indian market is also very high friction, right? So we figured the only way to do this is to have a platform which solves for this friction, right? And which means you have to address legalities and compliance, you have to address regulation, you have to address just create great user experience when this is to happen, and that will then reduce the pricing, right? So it will become inexpensive and smooth for people to do this. Only then it makes sense, for this volume to kind of continue to happen. And at the same time, because of the you try to build a business in a large space. That's one of the learnings from previous experiences as well, that the space has to be so large that you can build a very big enterprise. And this is naturally a space which seems to be massively expanding. This data that I was talking about was mostly India data. But if you look at Indonesia, if you look at Malaysia, if you look at countries like Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, etc., Turkey, then this market is even larger. So one can really build a $200-300 million revenue company in the next 5-7 years in the space, and which is what sort of we said, okay, let's do the pivot basically.
So the bigger problem that you're trying to solve through Borderless is eliminating the hassles of sending money abroad. Is that a fair way of putting it across?
Sending money is a large part of it, but also what you're doing with the money.
Okay.
You are sending it for an expense, right? The dollar is, I don't know what the rate today is, but let's say around 86 rupees, right? A few years ago, the dollar was 81, 82 rupees.
Right.
If you have to send a child for studies to the US, the fee may still be $50,000, but rupee value has changed.
Correct.
Right. तो आपका भेजना एक्सपेंसिव है, उसको तो चलो हम स्मूथ कर ही रहे हैं, उसको हम सस्ता भी कर रहे हैं, बट जिस पर्पस के लिए आप भेज रहे हो, instead of just sending the money, if you had saved the money and invested the money in a manner that you could then use the money, right, that is a space which is totally empty. So we figured that an ecosystem that is required for this to be efficient will include investing and savings. तो फिर हमारे products are more around कि okay, when you send money, it should be cheap and inexpensive and efficient, but you should be able to save money. So you can only save money if you have a dollar account. So let's give you a dollar account with your Indian KYC, with your Indian credentials, sitting in India with just your passport, digitally just open it and put money in it, right? And while being totally RBI compliant, which is a major part from an India perspective, right? If you want to invest money, you want to buy shares of Tesla, Google, or you just want to put money in a simple, some ETF or fund, you should be able to do that without the friction. Again, with your Indian KYC credentials, digitally in 5 minutes, right? So that's really what the platform became, that you will send money, right? But the rest of the experience around sending money has to work for you. So that really is the essence of it. And the reverse is also true. India is the largest destination for receiving overseas money as of last year. $120 billion came back to India from individuals again, right? So it's almost 4 times the money that actually went out. And that number is increasing because so many Indians have gone abroad over the years. So the easier it becomes to go abroad and earn money abroad, the more the inward volume will also grow.
True.
Right. So we figured that investing and sending money, this is not a one-way street. It's not about just Indians trying to send money out and just keep it outside, right? It's also the other way around. That also needs to become efficient and much more transparent, and their own compliance in their own countries need to be taken care of. So Borderless as a platform, that's the intent, that it should solve on all sides.
What has been your proudest milestone at Borderless so far?
That's a tough one. I mean, I honestly don't take pride very seriously because हम कुछ कर रहे हैं और वो करते जा रहे हैं, right? It just goes. I like to go with the flow to a certain extent, but I think at some level, when you get good feedback, we had a event in Bombay last month in May, and we got some fantastic feedback on the product, right? That was sort of that's one time, or those are the times when you feel ki, okay, what the team has built is working for the audience that the team is catering to, the Borderless team is catering to.
Right.
I think that is one area. The other has largely been when you get a positive response from a regulator. I mean, I naturally am building something which is very practical, keep all the emotion out of it. It's super regulated, right? And if you face a regulator and the regulator says, ki, what you're saying, we'll be supportive, right? There is a sandbox for this, or there is a way to test it out in a small manner, right? I think then you kind of get feedback that, okay, you've set your legal and compliance processes right, and your team is great, right? That they were able to convince the regulator to go with it, right? And actually be a part of the experiment with you, so to say. So I think those largely, those are areas which constantly, if they happen, then you're like, this is worth doing.
So you're saying, just to summarize what you just said, right? User experience, and feedback on the product, is something that you're extremely proud of. And of course, the regulatory side of it, the platform itself, the fact that you have regulators backing you up, is something that you take with great pride.
I think the last one probably is when, last but not the least, is when people make money using it's a money platform, right? So when people make money, we are very B2B2C in our distribution. So there are lots of wealth managers who use Borderless for their clients.
Got it.
There are lots of financial advisors who use Borderless for their clients, right? So if they make money on the platform, then you've essentially created an additional stream of revenue for someone. Right? Which I think it's not about pride, but you just feel that, okay, you are useful, right? You're useful in a way that that wasn't there earlier. So that again, I think is.
What's the goal for the next 3 years? You can talk in dollar values, we can talk in percentages, whichever way you want, right? But where do you see Borderless over the next 3 years?
I think, so I'm not pitching to investors, this conversation right now, but the conversations we are having internally, at least, are that the market is so big that, over 3 years, say 8 or 10 countries need to be on the platform. We are today we are in US, we are in India, we are in Singapore and Dubai. We are getting into Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. We are getting into Indonesia, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia. So these are a few markets that we are looking at. Right? In the next 3 years, the idea is to be established, in about 8-9 countries, not only India. The other, numerically speaking, I said you can build a $100-200 million revenue company in this space in say 5 years or so. I think if you're on that path, right? If you are in, $50 million, $60 million company by revenue in the next 3 years, I see that there is enough potential for it.
Sure,
there's definitely potential for it, and I don't think it's very prudent to talk in valuation terms because that's mostly a result of what happens overall, right? So, but revenue and profitability, those are two areas, or unit profitability from day one, just profitability by the 3rd year. I think those are things that we are focused on.
Interesting. What you're building, the platform and everything around it, sounds very interesting. Let's shift our focus to your mental ability as an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship, as you would agree, is not just a business. It's a mental game at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Are there any daily practices that you follow or any best practices that you follow that keeps you going?
I mean, you have to enjoy it, right? So, I think health is a major part of a lot of things take a backseat, like
Mhm.
relationships take a backseat, life with friends takes a backseat. Um, Health also tends to take a backseat. You're eating at odd hours. There's a lot of travel involved. So, you have to enjoy the travel, and that part of life is very important. Otherwise, you'll constantly be bored. In my personal way, I play tennis, so
Okay.
that keeps me. I would say if I have a good day at tennis in the morning, then I have a good day. Just mentally. कि चलो, somebody gave a bad feedback on the product, पर आज वो वाला shot अच्छा मारा था. राइट या वो गेम अच्छा खेला था आज अपने सेटिस्फैक्शन के हिसाब से खेल लिया सुबह सुबह खेल एंड आई ट्राई टू प्ले इन द मॉर्निंग rather than playing later in the day. Also, it's multi-country, so US market खुल जाता है शाम को, then you don't have time.
True.
So I try to play, say, between 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning typically. So if you're doing just those things, right, मेरे लिए वो काम करता है कि
Sure.
अगर आपने तो जब मैं बहुत ट्रैवल कर रहा होता तो मैं खेल नहीं पाता तो फिर मुझे लगता है कि चलो लेट्स अभी 2 हफ्ते हो गए हैं लेट्स गो बैक होम लेट्स प्ले दैट्स समथिंग आई लुक फॉरवर्ड टू and of course you take as much guilty as you can feel you try to take time out for family and so on as well, right? You have family support but you can't take advantage of it beyond a point of time. So that's you again I go back to my wife, my son. We hang out and we try to go out and take a vacation now and then, largely these things.
You're a successful entrepreneur, but I think one quality that I'm reading as we speak is you are extremely grounded and you show extreme modesty. What are those core values that you inherited that has helped you remain grounded and really take success by its stride while keeping yourself grounded?
I think it comes from a very fundamental belief that I have not succeeded yet.
Okay.
Right? Because you're on a journey. Right. So if you begin to feel, at least works for me again, that if I begin to feel कि ये हो गया, right, this is a revenue, this is a value, these are the people, etc., then you will feel कि then arrogance can maybe come in.
Yeah.
Right. But you're constantly chasing something. Right. You're constantly thinking कि अच्छा next ये कर लोगे तो अच्छा लगेगा. Right. Again, the thinking is not in terms of कि success हो जाएगा, बस अच्छा लगेगा. Right. It's more just that there's a very famous poem called If, right? Where the essence is that you can take success and failure in the same stride and it
True.
doesn't really matter, right? So I think in a way that gets imbibed at some level कि ठीक है बुरा भी हुआ तो भी अगले let's move on to the next thing. अच्छा हुआ तो let's move on to the next thing anyways. I think that's one value. I guess it comes from just family and family life and you've had successes. Everybody at some level, I think everybody is succeeding and failing constantly. Even if you're in a corporate job or you're studying, your days are you feel if you reflect, you will feel success and failure in little tidbits all the time. So it's not just because you're an entrepreneur. Your risks are higher, but otherwise, we are all failing and succeeding at little things. So बस करते चलो. I think that's really the way life has been, and that's the way I was brought up, I suppose. That ठीक है, बहुत खुश होने की भी जरूरत नहीं है, और दुखी तो होना ही नहीं है. Right? I guess that's just
So like the Dhoni mindset, right? Consistent.
perhaps. I mean, he's praised for it, right? A lot of, I would say, real India is like that, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone's gone through hardships, everyone's gone through, and everyone's seen success also in their own manner. So there's no point thinking too much about it, giving it too much credence. जो है सो है, right? You just continue building.
You spoke about success. Let us also talk about failure.
Yeah.
What does failure mean to you now versus during your earlier career?
Yeah, I think in the early career days, failure impacts you a little bit more because you have nothing else to ground yourself on.
Yeah.
Right. But now, you failed, you can analyze it better. And you failed so many times that you just, you're much more experienced at failing than at succeeding. Right. So you learn whatever you can from it and quickly move on to the next one. I think that I would say is really the learning that you can move on very quickly, and you can see if there is something to take away from a failure, you take it. Otherwise, you say, "Ki chalo, let's just let it be and let's move on to the next one." Which was more difficult in the early days because it's life changing. There's only 2-3 things happening in life, and you failed at one or two.
Yeah.
Then you're like, "Ab kya karenge?" Right? You're kind of rethinking life a lot. But now you have 10 balls in the air, 2 गिर जाएंगी. या rather 2 ही बचेंगी, 8
juggling.
गिरेंगी. या तो you keep juggling.
Very nice. I'm going to ask 2 final set of questions, which I believe will add a lot of value to our audience today. And I want to extract that value from you. The first one is, what advice would you give to someone or anyone who is stuck between safety, job security,
Yeah.
and ambitions?
Yeah.
Somebody's on the cusp of, let's say, thinking whether or not they should be quitting their jobs, getting into entrepreneurship. There are a lot of people waiting on the border, trying to see if they want to cross the bridge or not.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to those people?
Yeah. I think think very hard of what you're looking to do in very practical ways, because it will require a lot of time and energy. And there will be, you may have an idea which you think ki ye bada acha hai, but you have to convince other people about it. Right? So validate it enough to know that you are so convinced, because a lot of people will say no. Most people will say no. Right? So, but you have to be so convinced, insanely convinced. So there's a little bit of, like I said, insanity about doing something like this, right? So it's not the most important thing in life. जरूरी नहीं है, job quit करके कुछ startup करने की कोशिश करना and stuff. So reflect on more कि will you have the energy? Do you want it so much कि when times are not great, when nobody is agreeing, with what you're trying to do, you will still do it.
Yeah.
A little bit of doggedness is required. That is one. Second, I think, and this is a great time because there's a lot of security otherwise. So be very ready for experiments. If there is an idea that I come with and I start something and it doesn't work, I give it like 5-6 months, let's say, right? You've given it 5-6 months and you've tried various ways of checking whether it's working or not. If you still remain dogged about it, then that's recipe for failure. So the world appreciates flexibility in that sense. So while for the journey you are inflexible, you have constant energy, but for the little things that you are doing, if you're not learning from what's going wrong and tweaking your model, tweaking your idea, tweaking your product, your approach, then also you will not succeed. So these two things that, one, just make sure that you have the energy,
right?
Which means make sure that you're crazy enough about it कि ये होना ही चाहिए. Right? And the other is be a little bit flexible in terms of how you execute.
Final question for you, Sudashma. Imagine your younger self is watching this and listening to us. What would your message be for him?
That's a tough one. Requires reflection. Buy Apple ka stock. Buy Bitcoin if it is 2010, 2014 type of time frame. That's what the easy answer is. But naturally, I mean, if you reflect really hard, I think take risks. I think it's back in, if I imagine 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have known that the environment has become good enough for the risk reward ratio to come down a little bit.
Right.
That is one. So taking risk is not a bad idea as it was, say, 30, 40 years back. So take risk. Be very ambitious, because again, if you look at it from India global perspectives, now it's possible to build $10 billion, $20 billion companies in India also. It's possible to build $100 billion, $200 billion, $1 trillion companies globally, right? So chota sochne ki jagah, it's possible to be super ambitious. It's possible to have global ambitions. It's we have been talking a lot, India has been talking a lot about Indian companies emerging from India but being globally relevant. Right? 10, 20 years after, my younger self, today I know that it is possible. There's so many companies from India which have become extremely global, right? They are there because they were ambitious enough to think of that. So I would say be ambitious, take risks, buy Apple and Bitcoin.
That's nice. Well, thank you so much for such a refreshing and honest conversation.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
a pleasure.
Thank
I
you so
think people like you who dare to do things differently, who are okay to walk away from the comfort zones, I think are the people who change the world. I am feeling extremely proud as a fellow Indian to see somebody who is building a world-class cross-border
Huh.
financial services platform. And I wish you all the best in this success,
Thank you.
in this journey. And I wish that your platform continues to transform the way your businesses operate around you, the customers that will be embraced by it.
Yeah.
And may you continue to grow your business and make India proud.
Absolutely privileged to be here. Thank you so much, Sunny. Just thanks so much for allowing me to speak, and thanks so much for sharing my thoughts. Thank you so much.
Great. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it from this episode. Please continue to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss on any such meaningful conversations again. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.